The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck, Chapter 12. Highway 66 is the main migrant road. 66, the long concrete path across the country, waving gently up and down on the map, from Mississippi to Bakersfield. Over the red lands and the gray lands, twisting up into the mountains, crossing the divide, and down into the bright and terrible desert, and across the desert to the mountains again, and into the rich California valleys. 66 is the path of a people in flight, refugees from dust and shrinking land, from the thunder of tractors and shrinking ownership, from the desert's slow northward invasion, from the twisting winds that howl up out of Texas, from the floods that bring no richness to the land and steal what little richness is there. From all of these the people are in flight, and they come into 66 from the tributary side roads, from the wagon tracks and the rutted country roads. 66 is the mother road, the road of flight. Clarksville and Ozark and Van Buren and Fort Smith on 64, and there's an end of Arkansas. And all the roads into Oklahoma City, 66 down from Tulsa, 270 up from McAllister, 81 from Wichita Falls south, from Enid north. Edmond, McLeod, Purcell, 66 out of Oklahoma City, El Reno and Clinton, going west on 66, Hydro, Elk City, and Texola, and there's an end to Oklahoma. 66 across the panhandle of Texas, Shamrock and McLean, Conway and Amarillo, the yellow, Wildorado and Vega and Boise, and there's an end of Texas. Tucumcari and Santa Rosa, and into the New Mexican mountains to Albuquerque, where the road comes down from Santa Fe. Then down the gorged Rio Grande to Los Lunas, and west again on 66 to Gallup, and there's the border of New Mexico. And now the high mountains, Holbrook and Winslow and Flagstaff in the high mountains of Arizona. Then the great plateau rolling like a groundswell, Ash Fork and Kingman and Stone Mountains again, where water must be hauled and sold. Then out of the broken sun-rotted mountains of Arizona to the Colorado, with green reeds on its banks, and that's the end of Arizona. There's California just over the river, and a pretty town to start it, Needles, on the river. But the river is a stranger in this place. Up from Needles and over a burned range, and there's the desert. And 66 goes on over the terrible desert, where the distance shimmers and the black center mountains hang unbearably in the distance. At last there's Barstow, and more desert until at last the mountains rise up again, the good mountains, and 66 winds through them. Then suddenly a pass, and below the beautiful valley, below orchards and vineyards and little houses, and in the distance a city. And oh my God, it's over. The people in flight streamed out on 66, sometimes a single car, sometimes a little caravan. All day they rolled slowly along the road, and at night they stopped near water. In the day, ancient leaky radiators sent up columns of steam, loose connecting rods hammered and pounded, and the men driving the trucks in the overloaded cars listened apprehensively. How far between towns? It is a terror between towns. If something breaks, we camp right here while Jim walks to town and gets a part and walks back, and how much food we got. Listen to the motor, listen to the wheels, listen with your ears and with your hands on the steering wheel, listen with the palm of your hand on the gear shift lever, listen with your feet on the floorboards. Listen to the pounding old jalopy with all your senses, for a change of tone, a variation of rhythm may mean, a week here, that rattle, that's tappets, don't hurt a bit. Tappets can rattle till Jesus comes again without no harm. But that thudding as the car moves along, can't hear that, just kind of feel it. Maybe oil isn't getting someplace. Maybe a bearing's starting to go. Jesus, if it's a bearing, what'll we do? Money's going fast. And why's the son of a bitch heat up so hot today? This ain't no climb, let's look. God almighty, the fan belt's gone. Here, make a belt out of this piece of rope. Let's see how long. There, I'll splice the ends. Now take her slow, slow till we can get to a town. That rope belt won't last long. If we can only get to California where the oranges grow before this here old jug blows up. If we only can. And the tires, 2 layers of fabric worn through, only a 4-ply tire, might get 100 miles more out of her if we don't hit a rock and blow her. Which'll we take, 100 maybe miles, or maybe spoil the tube? Which? 100 miles. Well, that's something you got to think about. We got tube patches. Maybe when she goes, she'll only spring a leak. How about making a boot? Might get 500 more miles. Let's go on till she blows. We got to get a tire, but Jesus, they want a lot for a old tire. They look a fellow over. They know he got to go on. They know he can't wait, and the price goes up. Take it or leave it. I ain't in business for my health. I'm here a-sellin' tires. I ain't giving 'em away. I can't help what happens to you. I got to think what happens to me. How far is the next town? I seen 42 cars of you fellas go by yesterday. Where you all come from? Where all you going? Well, California's a big state. It ain't that big. The whole United States ain't that big. It ain't that big. It ain't big enough. There ain't room enough for you and me, for your kind and my kind, for rich and poor together, all in one country, for thieves and honest men, for hunger and fat. Why don't you go back where you come from? This is a free country. Fella can go where he wants. Is that what you think? Ever hear of the Border Patrol on the California line? Police from Los Angeles? Stopped you bastards, turned you back? Says if you can't buy no real estate, we don't want you. Says got a driver's license? Let's see it. Tore it up. Says you can't come in without no driver's license. It's a free country. Well, try to get some freedom to do. Fella says you're just as free as you got jack to pay for it. In California, they got high wages. I got a handbill here tells about it. Baloney. I seen folks coming back. Somebody's kidding you. You want that tire or don't you? Got to take it, but Jesus, mister, it cuts into our money. We ain't got much left. Well, I ain't no charity. Take her along. Got to, I guess. Let's look her over. Open her up. Look at the casing. You son of a bitch, you said the casing was good. She's broke damn near through. The hell she is. Well, by George, how come I didn't see that? You did see it, you son of a bitch. You want to charge us $4 for a busted casing. I'd like to take a sock at you. Now keep your shirt on. I didn't see it, I tell you. Here, tell you what I'll do. I'll give you this one for $3.50. You'll take a flying jump at the moon. We'll try to make the next town. Think we can make it on that tire? Got to. I'll go on the rim before I'd give that son of a bitch a dime. What do you think a guy in business is? Like he says, he ain't in it for his health. That's what business is. What'd you think it was? Fellas got, see that sign alongside the road there? Service Club, Luncheon Tuesday, Colmado Hotel. Welcome, brother. That's a service club. Fella had a story. Went to one of them meetings and told the story to all them businessmen. Says, when I was a kid, my old man gave me a haltered heifer and says, take her down and get her serviced. And the fella says, I done it. And every time since then, when I hear a businessman talking about service, I wonder who's getting screwed. Fella in business got to lie and cheat, but he calls it something else. That's what's important. You go steal that tire and you're a thief, but he tried to steal your $4 for a busted tire. They call that sound business. Danny in the back seat wants a cup of water. Have to wait. Got no water here. Listen, that the rear end? Can't tell. Sound telegraphs through the frame. There goes a gasket. Got to go on. Listen to her whistle. Find a nice place to camp and I'll jerk the head off. But God almighty, the food's getting low, the money's getting low. When we can't buy no more gas, what then? Danny in the back seat wants a cup of water. Little fella's thirsty. Listen to that gasket whistle. Christ, there she went. Blowed tube and casing all to hell. Have to fix her, save that casing to make boots. Cut 'em out and stick 'em inside a weak place. Cars pulled up beside the road, engine heads off, tires mended. Cars limping along 66 like wounded things, panting and struggling. Too hot, loose connections, loose bearings, rattling bodies. Danny wants a cup of water. People in flight along 66, and the concrete road shone like a mirror under the sun, and in the distance the heat made it seem that there were pools of water in the road. Danny wants a cup of water. He'll have to wait, poor little fella. He's hot. Next service station like the fella says. 250,000 people over the road. 50,000 old cars. Wounded steaming. Wrecks along the road abandoned. Well, what happened to them? What happened to the folks in that car? Did they walk? Where are they? Where does the courage come from? Where does the terrible faith come from? And here's a story you can hardly believe, but it's true, and it's funny, and it's beautiful. There was a family of 12, and they were forced off the land. They had no car. They built a trailer out of junk and loaded it with their possessions. They pulled it to the side of 66 and waited, and pretty soon a sedan picked them up. 5 of them rode in the sedan and 7 on the trailer and a dog on the trailer. They got to California in 2 jumps. The man who pulled them fed them, and that's true. But how can such courage be, and such faith in their own species? Very few things would teach such faith. The people in flight from the terror behind, strange things happen to them, some bitterly cruel and some so beautiful that the faith is refired forever.